To the question, what was our big year? I would say for me, particularly related to One Young World and what David and I are doing now with One Young World, the big year really was 2008 into 2009. Why? Because that was the year that we decided to say yes to Kofi Annan asking us if we would assist him with his campaign to raise awareness for the climate change talks in Copenhagen, which were in December 2009. And I think the fact that we were involved with a figure like Mr. Annan, and my being a mother myself, my absolute raging frustration at the ineptitude and the lack of leadership on the world scene regarding the impact of climate change was such that I think for both of us we started to question not only what other world leaders were doing, but what we ourselves were doing as company CEOs, and also why it seemed there was such a stasis and a lack of change or willingness to change. What seemed to me personally, and I think David would agree, to be issues that really the powers that be can address, and very simply. In my time, things like CFCs, it took global governments about 12 months to get that sorted out, legislate, agree it, job done. I would never have said 30 years ago that it was possible that cigarette smoking could be banned in public places because of the very real risk of lung cancer for all people, not just smokers. And yet today it's happened. So 2008, 2009, when we looked at the debate, or why debate it, but anyway, around the effects of climate change, and it seemed to us that the issue was not whether it was man-made, but the issue was what you did about the effects of climate change, and that it really is not the most complex thing in the world, that the technology and the potential for technology changing, whether it's filters on coal-fired powered stations or whatever, possible solutions are actually there. And China and America, USA looking at each other and going, well, I don't want to be the one who blinks first. It's just, when you think about it, the impact on people's health, the impact on the planet, the impact on our children and our grandchildren, it's insane. So those years for us were very, very important and led directly to the idea that we would create One Young World and lift up the voices of young leaders around the world to try to force the heads of governments and the heads of companies to listen to the voices of the young and to start to change their ways to meet those standards of those young people to create a better future. And I think it really was that year for us, to the question, what was your big year? I think that really was a big year for us. I think the importance of the advertising and marketing industry in which I work, which of course is a broad term, where do you start? Is it Twitter or a television campaign? But it is a very broad discipline. I think its importance historically has been the handmaid, the doppelganger of the world of capitalism and the world of consumerism, unsustainable consumerism, some people will say. But why is it important? There are people who say it's not important, it's the worst thing that can possibly happen. I don't agree, I wouldn't, would I? But its importance to the world is the following. We gather into our industry some of the most creative minds, and certainly the most creative minds in terms of communication and effecting behavioral change. And that is our importance. So this is the industry that can make you buy things that you don't need, arguably. And our challenge with that industry is to say, okay, if we can make you buy things you don't need, how do we use that creativity in marketing communications to affect positive change? And we really are the only people in the world who can do that. Our industry can do that thing. Our industry can communicate the benefits of certain behavior and can effect positive change in that way. And that to us is the challenge. And I think for David and me as founders of One Young World, One Young World is the product of our using our creativity to help effect positive change. And my concern now, with all my many years of advertising and marketing and communications disciplines, is to turn those years of mine, that learning, to the effect of not just the marketing of One Young World, but of making the world listen to the voices of the young leaders that we gather at One Young World. And again, I think our disciplines, David and I have the training and the discipline behind us that should enable us to do that. Whether we do it well enough or not, we'll see in the near future, but that's the plan. How we at Havas and how David and I would support the upcoming generation is in several ways. I'd like to start first with David's role as the CEO of Havas and my role as his chairman here in the UK. The way we would support the upcoming generation, I think, is particularly in a time where we've had significant recession, economic recession over the last few years, and where levels of youth unemployment, particularly the group under 25, are rising. In order to support the upcoming generation, plainly the creation of jobs is absolutely paramount. Whether it's here in the UK or whether it's in Spain, whether it's in France, in Latin America, the States, South Africa, this is a major concern of ours, is job creation. And how we're doing that is looking at the way that we recruit people into our industry. And we are trying not to use the recruitment methods that have been traditional to ourselves and to our industry, which is always going to the same colleges or universities, always looking for the same kind of person. So we're trying to diversify across the board the way that we recruit young people into our industry, and looking particularly, I'm looking in the UK at the moment, in addition to graduates, we're looking for what we call NEETs, not in education, employment or training, and we're looking to try to employ more of them on training contracts and on internships and developmental contracts to help address this searing problem of youth unemployment. I think is one thing. But the other way we look to support the upcoming generation is what we're trying to do with One Young World, is to get captains of industry, CEOs, heads of government, ministers in government, even heads of the NGOs, to listen to the voices of young people and to use the young people around them to point the way to the future. So rather than people my age sitting around going, oh, this is what the future's like and this is how we're going to do things, ask the young people in your organization, in your community, how do you think the world should be? I do not believe there is a young person on the planet today under the age of 25 who would say that legislation, global legislation on the impacts of climate change is not an emergency. Every one of them would say it is an emergency. No world leaders today are treating it as if it was an emergency. So I think that's where we look to support young people, the upcoming generation, is using every ounce of influence we have, and every speaking opportunity we get, every interview we do, every newspaper piece that we write, every op-ed, everything we do, to say if people in the incumbent leadership in the world would simply listen to the upcoming generation, listen to what they want and plan for a better future, we'd have a shot at changing things. And I think that's the best we can do to support the upcoming generation.